If you want to spend a bunch of money on bass fishing, then start buying crankbaits, because not one crankbait will do it all. So what you end up with is a bunch of boxes of baits that you will never use. So when I get asked, how can I get started crankbait fishing? Well, it's definitely not trial and error until you find some baits that work for you. It's coming up with a crankbait system like this. So when it comes to a crankbait system, we're going to talk about, since it is cold weather, it is cold water, we're going to talk about cold weather cranking. And I've got a really affordable system for you geeks to go out and try if you want to get into crankbait fishing. A lot of this stuff is going to work year round, but we're going to really focus on what you need to do when it is cold water. When I say cold water, I'm talking about, let's say 58 degrees or less, maybe even 60 degrees or less. And this system will cover a ton of different lakes and water clarities. So let's talk about the two types of crankbaits that you're going to need when it comes to wintertime or just cold water crankbait fishing. You're going to need some sort of flat, tight wiggling crankbait. This is the Bomber Flat A. It's got a very tight wiggle, very unique bill. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's going to be very tight, great in those clear water conditions. Maybe a day like today where it's a little bit bluebird, but we've got a little bit of chop on the water, so it's breaking it up. And it's a very subtle, tight wobbling crankbait. So like I said, you want that tight wiggling, that really tight crankbait for winter fishing. But the exact opposite is also true. You want something that's a little more round, a little fatter, something that's got a great wobble to it. And that's when something like this, the Bandit 200, 100, 200, 300 is going to work for you. And this is great for two different applications. So this is going to have a nice wobble to it. You're going to be able to fish these very slow so that you're literally counting rocks with them. And that's where they shine. Coming across rocks, just slow rolling it, or in dirtier water where you can reel it quick, beat it on those rocks. Let's say you've got a foot and a half of visibility. These little puppies right here are going to get you a lot of bites. Hey, you listen to Tackle Junkie, he'll even tell you he loves to throw that 106 inches or less. That's what these things are good for. Dirty water or around those rocks where you're just really cranking it slowly and it's just got this nice slow side to side wobble. So during the wintertime or cold water, these two style of baits are going to cover a lot of the situations you're going to see in your own lakes, rivers, and ponds. Hey geeks, just like I told you in the beginning of this video, man, crankbaits are one of the easiest way to go broke. And let me tell you, I have got, hangers and boxes of crankbaits everywhere. I love to throw a crankbait any chance I get. And I don't get a lot of chances unless I go away from here, but I am always ready. This is the Evolution Ballistic Hanger Case. Now, of course, like I told you, if you've seen the unboxing video, this, of course, has the X-Rust Max, so it's completely rust resistant, completely sealed, and you can carry around a bunch of baits and not get them hung. Now, these are my deeper divers because we're out fishing some clear lakes right now, winter fishing. They're a little deeper, 16 to 20 foot divers. So I've got my favorites in there. I carry 2 to 3 of these boxes, especially during the spring, so that I can cover from shallow to mid-range. For me, 16 feet is what I call mid-range. To me, anything over 16 is deep. For you guys, that may be deep. I don't know. But let me tell you, if you're not checking these out, and I do have a discount for you, you can go out on their website or you can use that Tackle Warehouse link, either one. I'm just now loading this one up, but I love that you can even label the boxes. I plan on picking up a bunch more of these, and you should too. So if you're primarily fishing, say, ultra clear lakes, then you're probably going to want to lean to the flat side of things. Now later on, when you're getting started, you can go ahead and start adding in some of your big wobblers in there. For those times when your lake gets a little bit of, late winter, early spring rains and dirties up. That'll help you out a lot. Now, if you're fishing primarily a dirtier lake, then you're probably going to want to go with the wider wobbling baits. That's going to be your starting point. And if it clears up every once in a while, or maybe you've got another lake or pond or whatever that you're going to want to fish, you can go ahead and start adding some of your flatter style, more subtle crankbaits. For me, I run into all different kinds of situations, especially a lot of rock, which I love my wider wobbling for. My gravel, pea gravel, that sort of stuff, when it's really bluebird skies, this is what I'm going to be throwing. That really tight wiggling bait. So let's talk about color and depth. We're going to kind of work these hand in hand. Color, it's going to be really simple. You're going to stay with 2 to 3 colors when it comes to winter through spring. This is called mad craw, but some sort of red and black, red and orange, that's what you want. That's one of the go-to colors all through winter and through early spring. Next, as far as colors go, is going to be some sort of shad pattern. This is the Bandit 100. Again, we'll talk about diving depths in just a second, but this is going to have the same body style. It's going to have a little different color pattern to it, especially when they're feeding predominantly on shad. This is what you're going to want. And this color is called Silver Minnow Sparkle. And again, geeks, it really doesn't matter the exact color like Mad Crawl or Silver Minnow Sparkle. It's just that you're matching that shad and that red craw. Next up is some sort of brim pattern. Now this is kind of what I would call a summer craw. It's a craw pattern. But what I'm predominantly looking for most of the time is a little bit of orange, a little bit of brown, and some sort of broken up lines on the side. Now this is definitely a brim pattern. A little brighter if you're fishing some darker water, some colder water, got a little bit of blue, a little bit of chartreuse, whole lot of orange on it. But both of these colors will work, just different water clarities. And you clear water guys, you're going to want the same style colors. Now you might pick up a little more translucence when you can find those available, but it's still going to be the same thing. And this is Mad Craw right here, and this is your shad pattern. This is literally one of my favorite colors, Tennessee shad. And as far as you flat side guys go, you're also going to want a brim pattern. Now this of course is, it's a muddy crawl pattern, but it's got a little bit of orange on there. You can see on the sides, got that vertical line color. And this is actually called bluegill. So it's perfect for exactly what we're talking about. So now let's talk about depth. And this is really where not one crankbait is going to do it all. So you're going to have to find a system. Now the good news for you guys who, have dirtier water, the dirtier water you have, really, the shallower you can consistently fish. Again, I bring up Tackle Junkie. He fishes in lakes that are 6 inches. You can pretty much throw a square bill year round in that water. They might back off a little deeper than that, You might have to go down one size a little bit deeper than this, but pretty much a square bill is going to get the job done 90% of the year. So let's talk about this just a little bit. What depth ranges you're going to be looking for, because you want them to kind of overlap a little bit or at least get close. But before we even talk about that, let's talk about line size. Most of these baits are rated using 12-pound test. So if you put 12-pound test on here, this bait is going to run 2 to 5 feet. And that's really where you want to start with on your depth ranges. And that doesn't matter whether you're using the wide body or that flatter, skinny body. This runs again 2 to 5 feet on 12-pound test. And this runs 3 to 5 feet. So roughly the same area in the water column that you're covering with 12-pound test line. You clear water guys, you may want to downsize that line. You dirty water guys, you can downsize. Instead of running at 5, you may get 6 feet out of them if you run at 10-pound test instead of 12. You may run at 7 to 8 feet if you go down to 8-pound test. So remember that. If you've got a lot of cover you're bringing it through or bigger fish, you may want to go up to 14. You're probably only going to run near the 3-foot diving depth, maybe even the 2-foot diving depth on this. So line size does matter. Same with this. A lot of times I'm going to throw this little puppy on 8-pound test. So instead of getting it to 5, I can get this flat A with the shorter bill down to somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 feet. And that's what I want you to notice on both of these. These are going to have the shortest bills. Now this is not a square bill. This is something that you need to pay attention to. This bill is very oval with a point on the end. So as this hits the bottom, it's going to roll and have a hunting action to it. So you're going to get that tight wobble, but it's going to roll back and forth and have this side to side action to it. That's not a wobble. It's still going to have that nice tight wiggle. This is going to do the same thing, but with that square bill, you're going to want to deflect it off of some things. Deflect it off the rocks, deflect it off of the wood. But again, in the cold weather, I would very much recommend fishing it slower. As we always call it, counting rocks. 1 rock, 2 rocks, 3 rocks, 4 rocks. Fish it a little slower. Next up is your mid-range divers. Now, both of these are actually going to dive 4 to 8 feet. Remember the line trick, not going to go over that again. Up your line shallower, down your line deeper. So now with this system, you can really cover that 0 to 5 and then that 4 to 8 feet. So now you see how we're building this system. We can now get down to 8, maybe even 10 feet with these if we adjust our line. But even if we use the consistent same rod and reel, which is what I would suggest when you're starting out, you're going to be able to go from 0 to 5 and then from 4 to 8. So you're covering different depth levels. And like I said, we're staying consistent with the colors. These are just 2 shad patterns that we're going to use. So now when it comes to the dirtier water, your deeper diver, and this is the Bandit 300, you can tell by how long and big the bill is. This is going to get you down to that 8 to 12 foot depth range. Now, I didn't bring any, but this works just as well. This little bait right here covers for your cleaner water. And I know we didn't exactly talk about this, but this is the Bomber fat-free shad. This little bait is still a very flat side. Like I said, it reminds me of a certain other bait a whole lot that a couple of people have put out. It's a great little bait. It's a great little winter bait. This is a little bait that I've used for years. But this bait, because a lot of times in cleaner water, you're going to have to get down deeper. is going to run 12 to 16. Now you throw this up in 8 foot of water, you know, where your longer bill little flat side is going to pick up. They do have another size that's kind of an in-between that runs 8 to 12. But for me, 90% of the time, this is what I throw. I'll throw this up in 8 foot of water and bring it out. I have no problems doing that whatsoever, and it will catch bass. Again, gonna have a little more wobble, but it's still very flat-sided bait. This is about, if you've got dirty water, this is about as deep as you're gonna go. Like I said, this gets down to 12 foot. It's got a great wobble. It's got a great size. It works perfectly. This is gonna get you all the way down to that 16 foot level when it's clear. And that is really it when it comes to winter cranking, or when it comes to the winter cranking system. You can get both of these if you fish a lot of different water. You can eliminate, look, you may fish a lake that's ultra clear, but you may not have to get down to 16 feet, 18 foot of water. Your lake may not be that deep. So that's how you kind of eliminate things. When it comes to crankbaits, one thing that you want to know is that you want to be fishing this a foot shallower than what it dives. So if this dives 5 feet, really the stopping point is about 4 foot, because you want these on the bottom, hitting things, bouncing off things, grinding that bill, no matter where and when you're fishing them. That's what gives these the erratic motion, and that's what's going to get your bites when it comes to crankbait fishing. Now, we're not going to cover rod, reel, line in this setup. We can talk about that in some other videos. For everything but this one, you can pretty much get away with, I mean, almost even a spinning combo. But for me, probably going to throw some sort of medium, moderate action. I like a little bit longer rod, so it's probably going to be somewhere in that 7.2 to 7.3. Now, if you're on the bank, you're probably going to want to keep that a little shorter, that 7 foot. But you can get away with that as far as bait casting goes, pretty much on all these. This one, you're probably going to have to go with a little more medium heavy. So a medium heavy fast, you can fish this all day. Maybe you'd want a medium heavy moderate, but like I said, if you're first learning, you can make concessions when it comes to rod and reel. So there's a reason why I picked this group of baits, Bomber and Bandit, and it's because they are so reasonably priced compared to a lot of other baits out there. So if you want to start fishing crankbaits, that's where you want to start. A great bait, a traditional bait that's been around forever, still catches a ton of fish, but is reasonably priced. That's what both of these brands do for you. Now, you can actually get it at an even better price, because I do have a 15% off code that we'll put right here. You can get it in the description. It's just Bassgeek 15. And that'll give you 15% off if you decide to go out and try to start cranking this winter and spring. So I get this question a lot, and this is something that I've put a lot of time, a lot of thought into, and want to save you guys some money that really want to start cranking this time of year. All right. Now, as far as wintertime cranking goes, I have got an incredible in-depth video for you that I am going to put right here. So make sure you go check that out. It'll really tell you when, where, why you should use each one of these baits. Otherwise, questions and comments in the comment section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Be part of the 100% Watch Squad. We need you geeks, and you geeks rock.